Well, hey, and welcome to the Learn Podcast Production Podcast. My name is Toby Lyles, and I just wanted to run through something real fast with you. This is a real short little deal. Hey, just playing around with limiters, and limiters have a zero attack. Like as soon as it comes in, they're trying to take down the gain, or actually compress the gain of the music. But what about the release? And what kind of release should you do? And what does that sound like? Why does it matter? Oftentimes, you don't really hear it, but especially in dialogue, it can be harder. Dialogue often has longer release times at times. That simply is because you kind of want this overall level. But I have my outro music. Now, the outro music for this show is too quiet. I've been using video stuff, and I have this video outro music, but it's like down at -26 or something. I've just got it real low, and so it just seemed to make sense to me to bring it up to volume, so I don't have to do any post editing, and it doesn't. Anyways, wanted to fix it, right? So it's a problem. I thought I'd fix it, and in fixing it, I was playing around with the limiter, and I thought you guys would like to see this. So I'm just going to play the last part for you, and you can hear how this sounds at -16, and then I'm going to just pump this limiter a little bit, and you can hear how it pumps. Now, for those of you listening, that was the loudness meter was playing at -16, more or less, and the threshold, I've got a threshold on the L1 maximizer at -6.1, about -6, and then an out ceiling of -3, which is kind of my standard. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn that threshold up, and we're just going to turn this up to, let's say, -16. So we're really bumping that about 10 more dB. So it'll be compressed and obviously louder. Here we go. So you can hear it just sounds way compressed. If you look at the meters, the gain reduction meters, we're reducing by, well, I'm looking at a 12 dB. Let me look again. Yeah, somewhere just shy of 12. And that is a -8 loudness. Now, some people wonder, why do you want to not compress as much, or why don't you just compress? Well, it's because there's artifacts. You don't really want it to sound too compressed. We like a little dynamics, and as you can hear that does not sound good. But there's this reverb tail on this snare, whatever they have on this music. And you can hear this release pumping. So I've got a 10 millisecond release right now. So that is a 10% of a second, a tenth of a second. And you can hear how it breathes a little bit. Let's play this. I just bumped it up to like -23. So this is a 23 decibel boost. So the bass is the strongest sound in this. It's the driver, and of course the snare pops. So those are the two loud things that this compressor, the limiter, is compressing, but it's letting go, and you can hear, especially at that snare pop, the snare hits the limiter, and then the limiter compresses, so it reduces, and then the snare, the reverb trail of that's reduced for a second, for a tenth of a second, and then the limiter pulls back and lets the sound through again. And so, because that's mid sound of that reverb, you can hear it open up again. So after explaining that, let me just show you again. So it only opens up after that bass stops. So boom, pa, and then at that pa, it goes pa, pa, or whatever it does. So that's it. It's simply just showing you the difference. And that's a negative 23. Just for kicks, here's a negative 30. So we're just slamming this all the way. 30 dB of limiting. So you just hear all sorts of artifacts. It's a mess. You're hearing, but you're just hearing a bunch. So there you go. That's a little bit of limiter logic. Now, if we were to fix this, you know what I should do? Let's bring this back down to negative 24. And if we were to fix this, then what we would do is, I mean, not that we would ever do this, but if we turn this release up, so I've got an 85. I haven't tried this, but I have an 85 millisecond release, and we're going to play it with that. Still there. I'm going to turn it up. Here's some more. We are at 623 milliseconds. So you can hear that's a lot more consistent, right? It's not pumping as much. It's basically just continually compressed at different levels, but it doesn't try to open up all the way. So you go from like 20 dB of reduction to 0 to 20 dB. It's a little bit more consistent. So that's, a release of almost 3/4 of a second. And for kicks, so y'all know, here's auto release. I just turn that on instead of the regular release. Let's see what it does. It does a pretty good job, doesn't it? So again, going back to where we started, where were we? Like at 9 dB of reduction or something like that? Let's try it again. It's funny, that's with the auto release. I'll turn off the auto release and put this back at the original settings on our regular release. About the same. So auto release does a fantastic job, and the thresholds does a great job of really clamping down on that. That's it. I hope that was helpful too. Just a little something. Otherwise, my friends, go out, make the world sound great.